We're late to the trends. I'm Greg.
I'm John.
Top 10 Savage Ricky Gervais insults. The best host to have ever come out of the Golden Globes. A monumental staple in comedy. I adore Ricky Gervais. He is so freaking funny. His stand-ups are interviews, everything about him.
He's savage.
He's motivated many people to be atheists.
Yep. Tearing down that G.O.D.
It's kind of true. But huge animal rights supporter. Huge animal rights supporter.
He does have a heart somewhere in there.
This is a top word tier video quest from Mikhail Lindan. Ooh, let's check it out.
You haven't been roasted until you've encountered Ricky. Welcome to watchmojo.
And today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 Savage Ricky Gervais insults.
Do you want to go see Cher? No. Why not? Because it's not 1975.
For this list, we're taking a look at the most brutal and hilarious shots that this comedian has taken at stars while hosting the Golden Globes. If you're a celebrity,
We should have covered this video weeks ago.
Yeah, during the
Number
Golden
10
Globes.
The other is Tim Allen, the 68.
Oh, I love this joke.
Ironically, we're kicking off this list of insults with a compliment, albeit a backhanded one. The same year Toy Story 3 won Best Animated Feature, Gervais introduced the voices of Woody and Buzz Lightyear, Tom Hanks and Tim Allen. Gervais singles out Hanks as a major box office draw, a magnet for accolades, and an acting chameleon.
What can I say about our next two presenters? The first is an actor, producer, writer, and director whose movies have grossed over $3.5 billion at the box office.
Well, that's nice. So, what does he say about Allen?
The other is Tim Allen.
Oh, God.
That's it. Ouch.
Oh, God.
Allen actually has a Golden Globe and several commercial successes under his belt.
Oh, yeah, of
When
course,
stacked
man.
up against Hanks, Gervais just isn't that impressed by Tim the Toolman. Of course, Hanks and Allen were not afraid to fire back at Gervais.
We recall back when Ricky Gervais was a slightly chubby but very kind comedian.
Neither of which is he now.
Number 9, Brad and Angelina's Little Presenters, the 73rd Golden Globe Awards.
I don't remember this
By
one.
2016, countless jokes had already been made about Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's history with adoption. Thus, Gervais introduced the next presenters as this.
When Brad and Angelina see our next two adorable little presenters, they're going to want to adopt them.
These little presenters were not child stars as one might be led to believe, but Kevin Hart and Ken Jeong. It may have been but Gervais did catch the audience off guard and ultimately managed to insult 4 people at once. From a trolling perspective, that's pretty impressive.
It's a good troll.
Number 8, Ashton Kutcher.
Yes.
68 Golden
This is when he listed off all his
Bruce
terrible
Willis will
movies.
always be remembered for his performances in Die Hard, The Sixth Sense, and Pulp Fiction. But which films does Ricky bring up as his career highlights?
You know our next presenter from such films as Hudson Hawk, Look Who's Talking, Mercury Rising, Color of Night, Fifth Element.
And the icing on the cake?
Please welcome Ashton Kutcher's dad, Bruce Willis.
As we all know, are not father and son, but they were both married to Demi Moore. The age difference between Kutcher and Moore was a frequent source of satire throughout their relationship, although it was Willis who got caught in the crossfire here. Willis more or less shrugged it off, but we can imagine what he was thinking based on the glance he sent Ricky. Number 7, Sex and the City 2.
Oh, I hope they have the Mel
hits
Gibson one.
68
He was so upset, Mel.
Oh, they
When
got
Sex
it.
and the City 2 hit theaters in 2010, the 4 main cast members were all in their 40s and 50s. While the years have seemingly been kind to them, Gervais did not hold back.
There are a lot of big films that didn't get nominated this year. Nothing for Sex and the City 2. No, I was sure the Golden Globe for special effects would go to the team that airbrushed that poster.
Gervais wasn't even done, saying,
Girls, we know how old you are. I saw one of you in an episode of Bonanza.
Bonanza, for those of you who don't know, was a Western show that premiered in 1959.
Oh, yeah.
For the record, Kim Cattrall was the only actress who had actually been born when Bonanza first aired, and she only would have been 3. While none of the Sex and the City women were at that year's Globes, Mr. Big himself, Chris Noth, was in attendance, and he could not contain his laughter. Number 6, eat pieces of Sheen for breakfast.
Ooh.
The 68th Golden Globe Awards. At this point in history, Charlie Sheen was still very much known for his unstable behavior.
Oh, when Johnny Depp was respected.
That year's
Yeah.
Globes aired only 2 months before Sheen was fired from 2.5 Men. So, of course, Ricky could not let that punchline slide.
It's going to be a night of partying and heavy drinking. Or as Charlie Sheen calls it, breakfast.
Gervais didn't stop there, relaying a news story about Sheen's reported escapades with adult film star Capri Anderson.
What he did was, he picked up a porn star, paid her to have dinner with him, introduced her to his ex-wife, as you do.
It was a funny way to open the show. Of course, Sheen wasn't the only rehab story Gervais dug up for the 2011 Golden Globes. Robert Downey Jr. also got his fair share of reality-hitting jokes.
But many of you in this room probably know him best from such facilities as the Betty Ford Clinic and Los Angeles County Jail. Please welcome Robert Downey Jr.
Number 5, The Walking Dead Wedding, the 68th Golden Globe Awards. For its debut season, The Walking Dead was up for Best Drama Series in 2011, prompting Gervais to go for the mother of all segues.
Talking of The Walking Dead, congratulations to Hugh Hefner, who's getting married at the age of 84 to 24-year-old beauty Crystal Harris. When she was asked why she was marrying him, she said because he lied about his age. He told me he was 94. Oh, come on.
Gervais insinuated that Harris was marrying Hefner under the impression that he was 94 and therefore had fewer years left. As if that joke wasn't shocking enough, Gervais had the room wincing at the next few words.
Don't worry. Hold out and just don't look at it when you touch it.
It's a good thing the Globes aren't aired on HBO because Gervais probably would have gotten even more suggestive. Number 4, Jenny from the Rodeo Drive, the 68th Golden Globe Awards. Jeremy Renner's comment about Jennifer Lopez's Golden Globes may have been awkward, but remember what Gervais had to say about Jenny from the block? Although Lopez came from humble beginnings in the Bronx, she's evolved into one of the wealthiest women in the business. Prime material for Gervais.
She's just Jenny from the block. If the block in question is that one on Rodeo Drive between Cartier and Prada.
In a later interview with a radio station, Lopez claimed that she suspected that Gervais might take a shot at her during the ceremony. Before he introduced her, Lopez reportedly unleashed her inner diva backstage, telling Gervais that she isn't afraid of a fight.
I just automatically, the minute I saw him, I said, listen, I will kick your ass. I'm telling you, I'm from New York. My husband's from New York.
Gervais laughed her threats off and told his jokes anyway. Compared to some other celebs, Lopez felt she got off easy. Number 3, Caitlyn Jenner, the 73rd Golden Globe Awards. Following a 4-year hiatus, Gervais returned to host the Globes with a beer by his side and a lot of pent-up insults. Throughout his opening monologue, Gervais sounded like a kid who just got released from timeout, saying that he'd try to be nice. Naturally, it didn't take long for Gervais to break this promise, diving headfirst into a Caitlyn Jenner joke.
But as I say, I'm going to be nice tonight. I've changed. Not as much as Bruce Jenner, obviously. Now Caitlyn Jenner, of course. What a year she's had. She became a role model for trans people everywhere, showing great bravery in breaking down barriers and destroying stereotypes. She didn't do a lot for women drivers.
Gervais died as a result of the crash.
Yeah.
That wasn't a very nice comment, but it's the closest you're going to get with Ricky.
That's pretty
Number
hardcore.
2, Scientologists in the Closet, the 68th Golden Globe Awards. Gervais rocked the boat the first year he hosted the Golden Globes. The following year, however, he officially turned the boat upside down with this jaw-dropping joke about Jim Carrey and Ewan McGregor starring in I Love You, Philip Morris.
Jim Carrey and Ewan McGregor, 2 heterosexual actors pretending to be gay. So the complete opposite of some famous Scientologists then.
All at once, Gervais's comment was met with laughs and gasps from within the Beverly Hilton hotel crowd. He didn't name names. If Gervais had been more direct, we imagine he would have been slapped with a lawsuit the next day.
My lawyers helped me with the wording of that joke.
If you've seen South Park, you can piece together which famous Scientologists Gervais was alluding to. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell.
just
to be
mentioned
notified about
South
our
Park.
latest videos.
Marvel. I like
To be
Marvel.
Oh,
notified for occasional
That's
videos,
the John Wick,
John Wick.
Mortal Kombat,
Anime. That's like everything
switch on notifications.
that the internet loves.
Dude, these are the
Number
most
1, Mel
topical.
Gibson.
Oh!
67th Golden Globe
There you
Awards.
go.
Knew it.
Mel
There you
Gibson
go.
has been one of Gervais's most frequent targets at the Golden Globes, and his most savage insult came in 2010.
I like a drink as much as the next man. Unless the next man is Mel Gibson.
It had been almost 4 years since Gibson's DUI, which only garnered more bad press due to some unsavory comments he made during the arrest. If Gibson's presence at the Globes was supposed to signify some sort of comeback, Gervais did him no favors with this joke. Things got incredibly uncomfortable when Gervais had to introduce Gibson again at the 2016 Golden
Oh,
Globes.
Harvey.
I want to say something nice about Mel before he comes out. Oh yeah, okay, here you go. I'd rather have a drink with him in his hotel room tonight than with Bill Cosby.
Oh.
But Gibson had the last laugh.
Woof.
Saw this as an opportunity to finally get back at Gervais.
I love seeing Ricky once every 3 years because it reminds me to get a colonoscopy.
Do you agree with our pick?
Oh.
Check out this other recent clip from watchmojo. And be sure to
But there was-
ring the bell to be notified about our
What was the? There's one he said where Ricky Gervais said something about the sugar tits one. That's the one that.
You mean this list held back on some savagery to probably avoid a yellow dollar bill?
Unlike what I just did.
Yes. Well, we can always bleep it. Sugar breasts is what we refer to that as.
When Ricky Gervais went up to him and Rick Gomez said, "What does?" Well, they bleeped it out.
But by his lips, at
He
least.
says, "What does sugar tits mean?" And then you can just see Mel get, because at first he was being playful, had his arm around because he thinks he won. And then you just see him get like really upset. You can see Mel trying to like mask it. Like you can just see that rage coming through his face, and he's trying to block it with a smile.
Oh yeah, I mean that whole speech from Mel's end is like staccato. It seems like his whole energy is basically going to being presentable on TV.
Well, it's funny because they did the two back to back in this list, where one was when Mel came back to the Golden Globes, and then a follow up one. Now looks like he aged like 8 years.
Yeah. It's like every 3 years.
Every 2 years, Mel Gibson ages 10 more years. That's the thing
now-
about Mel Gibson.
Now his beards keep changing. He'll look like a Civil War general after a while,
Yeah.
and then he looks even older.
I mean, I know they probably prepared this list in advance, and because of the Golden Globes that were coming out of Ricky Gervais supposedly hosting for the last. I really hope it's the last time he does host. That is the best way for him to go out. That monologue that he had was a combination of that was raw, that was savage, and thank you. Like he said the things that people like before. It's just like he makes really edgy roasting kind of jokes. The things he said, especially about like Apple, the other companies, and the Harvey Weinstein. That was in the monologue, the Harvey Weinstein one. But the things he said were like so freaking honest about your speeches being political a lot of the time too.
And yet, you know, like there are a bunch of other companies that do have the horrible business practices that you're feeding into, you know, which doesn't nullify a good political point, but it does make you think like, oh, okay, there's a long way to go before we're ethically on point.
I'm surprised NBC has been cool with bringing him back so much. I mean, he does wonders for the ratings, and does wonders for the controversy and the talking, but he even took a stab at the Hollywood Foreign Press a good amount of times in his last Golden Globes. It was the best he's ever done. It was the best he's ever, he's great every time, but it was the best he's ever done. So I really do hope he does stand by it and say it's, and commit to it being his last time. What he does, I think, is such a great balance for the Golden Globes. Would be hilarious if he came back for the Oscars out of all that.
Oh my god, I would love that.
What a hilarious next step of like, I said I wouldn't do the Golden Globes, but I'm doing the Oscars.
Moving on up to the Academy.
Because then he would just make fun of the Oscars, their history, in such a way that's not holding back.
Well, yeah, and I think that speaks to the side of a lot of people that don't really care or don't feel like the awards really represent the taste of the populace. I feel like that does bridge a gap so that, you know, you're taking the piss out of the ceremony just as much as the ceremony is being regal and awarding people. So that level of irony like tempers things.
Well, that taking the piss out of people who take themselves so seriously. This is a form of entertainment, really hyper glorified works of fiction. Even if you're doing adaptation, it's still something that is essentially a form of entertainment. And I don't think it's bad to use your platform to talk about important issues. When he said political, I felt like he was talking specifically about things that deal with, like, you know, Republicans, Democrats, Trump, that kind of thing. Some considering to talk about environmental issues, like that is technically political, you know. It's like, and I feel like Ricky Gervais was like cool with that because it's a different kind of arena to talk about, even though it does still fall into the political landscape. It's just that people do, you can see it. They take themselves so seriously, and these award ceremonies, I feel like the light that's been shined on them so much as of late is how pretentious so much of it has been. To have someone like Ricky Gervais there to balance that out with really making fun, not like lighthearted comedy, really making fun of it and showing you guys shouldn't take it seriously. I love watching the celeb reactions of who is on board for this and who's not on board for this. The ones you could tell are like, we're actors and filmmakers. We do entertainment. Some might consider what we do important, but there's definitely more important things out there than what this freaking award show is, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like there is a certain element of his approach especially that goes to illuminate some of the limitations and the narrow field that the foreign press at least sometimes is coming from in terms of who they're nominating and choosing to award. And, you know, we've had controversies this year again about, you know, the lack of diversity among the nominations, snubs and all that. It's interesting because I feel like in a way, I wonder what's going to happen, because if we go back to a host that's just jovial and just with the program, I wonder what that's going to do to the show, because I feel like almost having him around makes for edgy humor, but it can make the show better, you know, if he brings up a particularly good point, especially about the quality of the show or the Hollywood Foreign Press's judgment. That could have an effect somewhere, you never know.
But he also doesn't make fun of those who have won, though. You know, like throughout the night, you know what I mean? Like, what I mean by that is he doesn't do what Kanye did to Taylor Swift. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't deserve that. He doesn't insult them for being nominated or being represented for the work of why they're being highlighted there today. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's just ribbing the specific people, but not shitting on the work that they've done.
Making fun of it, sure. He's not insulting them in a way where he's making them feel like they don't deserve to be there or they don't deserve to be nominated or anything like that. Weirdly, he rides a very interesting balance, because some might think he goes too far, but I think it's balanced. And I think NBC's okay with it, obviously. They brought him back so many times. He's a gem. He's a fucking gem. For the comedy world, he's a gem. He really is.
He's left a unique stamp on this show. Yeah. Ricky Oscars 2020. Let's do it.
All right, guys. So what's your favorite Ricky Gervais insult? Do you got one? Leave it in the comment boxes. Do you think he should host the Oscars one day? How great would that be? Subscribe to Watch Mojo. They need it. Subscribe to us. We don't need it. Click that notification bell. Unnecessary. Hit the like button. What's the point? Mikhail, thank you so much, dude. It's been a few weeks since I've heard from you, man. Don't know what's happened to you. You said you had an alright Christmas. Snow hadn't melted in Sweden. Sorry about that, buddy. But it sounds like overall you had a good Christmas. I asked you what your resolutions for the new year are. You haven't gotten back to me. I think that's because you're afraid to get back to me without a great answer. So you better have some awesome resolutions in mind to present. One of those better be get an 8-pack abs. Oh, yeah. Get glute implants.
Get that bubble butt.
Be able to bench press 25 pounds on each side of the bar.
That's a good goal. That's a good starting goal.
Yeah, John's almost there.
I'm almost
halfway there. And
come work out with me, Mikhail. We can spot each other. It'll be great.
And to also grow a mustache.
Oh, you would look awesome with a mustache, like a big old duster.
And a big butt. Big butt
Just a huge,
and a mustache.
Huge ass.